This book is very dangerous in the wrong hands, I think. So if you have a friend who is trying to justify an age gap, do not let them read this book. The yearning got a little bit too much. Like, it was a bit like, okay guys, like, wrap it up now. Like, the whole of year 13, oh my god, was probably the worst year of my life. But that means that I can approach this book with a new perspective. Hey my cinnamon souffles, welcome to this video. Today I'm literally going to be yapping about my favourite thing ever, which is books. So that's why I thought it would be better if I was sitting in like this corner of my room to film rather than my usual location. Because this is like the place where I do more yapping videos. Oh, I've got my Clairo poster behind me. I've been a Clairo fan since day one, okay, so you can't say I'm performative. But yeah, I saw her this year. She was so cool, so gorgeous. Her voice is amazing. A frog from like a nature poster. That's the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. So I'm going to be giving some reviews for books that I've already read, like in July, end of June-ish, and then also a library haul, and then with that like my TBR, and like for the remainder of summer what books that I'm hopefully going to be able to get through. But yeah, I love the library, guys. Like, if you're not borrowing books from the library, you should get on that grind because it's so fun. Like, the dopamine hit that you get when you reserve a book and get it is the same as buying a book, in my opinion. And I am using the library more because I've run out of space on my bookshelf, and also I'm trying to be a more conscious consumer and stuff because manufacturing paper takes up a lot of energy, so I'm trying to not buy books unless I know that I will reread it or it's a book that will like stay with me for a long time. I'll start off with some of the reviews of books I've read recently. I don't have some of them because I got them from the library, but so I read Half Soul. I did like a review in my post A-level vlog. I'd give that book like 7 out of 10. It was enjoyable. It was a quick read. So if you're looking for that Bridgerton fantasy theme, then go for it. I also read Ocean of Wrongs Unearthed with Briefly Gorgeous, which is a book that I've had on my TBR for ages. So glad that I have finally come around to it. This was a gorgeous, gorgeous book. It was so raw and heartfelt, and it's semi-autobiographical and written as letters to the narrator, like the writer's mother, so it feels so much more intimate rather than like this third person perspective. I don't want to say main character because it is like written as letters, so it like the writer's mother and grandmother were victims of the Vietnam War and they escaped and immigrated to America, so it delves into the horrors of the war, the aftermath, the struggles of the people who have to adapt to this whole new society. You know, they can't understand the language and the customs and the traditions. For the writer, it's a struggle as well because you have to deal with like the family struggles and it's like you're just trying to survive constantly as well. I think another thing that this book does really well is using imagery of different animals and just like imagery of nature to really portray and convey what kind of emotion the scene entails. So imagery of like butterflies, buffalo, monkeys. Before you read this, definitely check the trigger warnings because there are scenes of animal abuse. Also, there are some sex scenes as well, so just be aware of that. And I definitely had tears streaming down my face, I think twice whilst reading this book. And I read it at the same time as one of my friends, Lucy, so that was a really great experience as well. And I think it's just like this constant push and pull towards hope and towards like acceptance and love that I really recommend this book. I'd probably give it like 9 out of 10. And there was a quote about the eye that I think might take a bit too long if I read it out right now. Maybe I can like include it here, but it was so good. Like, that quote made me pause for a second and think about it. So then after that I read The Spellshop, which is this cozy fantasy book about someone called Kayla. The thing with fantasy books is that I never know how to pronounce each name, so sorry if that's wrong. But anyway, her parents moved from like this island in like this outer island to the city when she was younger, and she works as a librarian there guarding these magical spell books. But then there's a revolution, and so to escape and also save the books because they're trying to burn down the library, she goes back to the island where she was born. And at first, there's the thing, at first I didn't really like her because she was really annoying and really rude to people on the island, which is kind of understandable because she's an introvert, and also the books that she has are illegal. Like, she's not technically meant to take them out from the library, so she's very, very cautious of being caught by anyone. But anyway, she meets a lot of the villagers. There's a love interest called Larry, I think. But he's really sweet. He brings her food because she's basically landed on the island with nothing except her books and a talking spider plant. Like, one of my favorite things in this book were the talking plants. And I think because the way that she makes money on the island is she makes jam, and I just really like that idea. Like, yeah, why not make raspberry jam and stuff. So I really like that. Descriptions of the island were gorgeous, beautiful, so vivid and vibrant. There were some plot twists later in the book actually that were quite interesting, didn't see coming at all. I think at times you're kind of like, why does anyone like her at the start? Or it's like things kind of fall into place a little bit too easily, but I guess it's like a cozy fantasy. So there are things that aren't really explained unless they're related to her. Like, the book very much revolves around her. So it's kind of like you don't really get fleshed out characters. It's more about what can they do for the main character, I guess. And also I did want to know a little bit more about what happened in the city after the revolution, because obviously, like, that's a huge deal if you've just overthrown the whole government. I was kind of like, I wanted a little bit more. And then after that I read Cover Story, which is a romance that is set in Manchester, which I actually really enjoyed because I feel like the romances that are popular online are always set in America, or they're set in London, but then it's like kind of cringe and touristy. So I liked how it was set in Manchester because I feel like it became a bit more down to earth in a way, because it's like northwest England. And also the characters were so funny and so witty, like the British humour and stuff. And it's about two journalists, and they end up having to work together on a case where they're trying to expose the mayor for doing dodgy stuff, basically. But I really liked how the premise of that and like their fully like fleshed out characters made it so that you could see how their romance would happen organically. Because I feel like sometimes romances can seem out of circumstance, like, oh, you're lonely, I'm lonely, let's date, in some of the like popular romances. But this one was like, oh, I can see why you two like each other so much. Like, I guess it was like fake dating, but it made sense. And also it was just really fun to read about, and it did have serious moments as well. Like, the book wasn't solely focused on the romance, which I quite liked. It had a substance and other aspects to it as well. And I remember there was this one joke where the love interest says to the main character, like, he's grilling her about a guy that she used to be associated with, and he was like, he looks like a geography teacher, like he'd be teaching year 7s about Oxbow Lakes. I just thought that was really funny. And yeah, like the interactions between friends and siblings were also good as well, and the romantic relationship was really fun, great pacing, and I really wish that there was like an epilogue or a little bit at the end to fully round things off. Okay, then I read Fearless, which is the third book in the Powerless trilogy. I won't really talk about like the plot because I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read the first two books, but it does wrap things up nicely. The first half of the book dragged, didn't want to finish it, but I was like, no, I'm going to power through, and so I finished that, and there were some really good plot twists, so I did really like the second half. But overall, oh wait, what book was I talking about before? Cover Story, I'd give like 9 out of 10, it's so good. Fearless, I'd give 6.5 out of 10. So second half plot twists were great. However, it kind of did repeat aspects of the first two books, and it's basically just like Hunger Games but tone deaf. It doesn't really talk or like imply things to do with like social inequality. I don't know. And I felt like the third book, the yearning got a little bit too much. Like it was a bit like, okay guys, like wrap it up now, because they just kept yearning. And it's like, it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't want to read any of this anymore. Like this isn't hitting. But I will say this book I felt was less cringy and it was a bit slower, but I think some people probably might not enjoy that. I personally did enjoy the fact that they didn't like keep talking about the colour of each other's eyes. Like the first book was unbearable, the amount of times that they said, oh, he has stormy grey eyes and she has ocean blue eyes, and they just kept talking about each other's eyes for some reason. Then I read Ashes and the Starcursed King, which is the sequel to The Serpent and the Wings of the Night. I don't know where the author gets the titles from. Like I feel like she just chat GPT'd it and was like, yeah, that sounds good, because I don't know where in the book it relates to that title, but whatever. Anyway, this book, so I had it hardcover, so it was 580 pages, but I think paperback is about 630 pages. I finished it in 2 days. I actually sped through the book. To be fair, I can't really tell you exactly why I really enjoyed it so much, but I guess I can confidently say pacing was good, plot was interesting. I did really like how the world expanded. Like we went to more places and there were revelations about the history of certain things and certain people and the politics of the different houses. So this series is basically a fantasy with vampires, and the first book kind of has like a Hunger Games-esque trial where the winner gets granted a wish. That was a crazy cliffhanger, the first book actually. I don't want to go into the second book plot too much, but I will just say like the events stack up quite nicely, and the politics of the different houses, because there's like rivalries, different histories of the houses. So that was much more prominent in this book, which I quite liked as well. And the love between Araya and Ron was lovely to see, very cute. They did do some things that I would very much question, but to each their own. And I liked how Araya's relationship with her father was also talked about in detail. It acknowledges that there are so many more relationships besides the romance, like there's her father, there's her best friend, and all of that. Also, her best friend killed her rapist and everyone cheered! So I did really like that aspect of the story as well, and definitely looking forward to future books written by the author and the rest of the series. My phone ran out of storage, so I had to just delete that, upload it, come back. So if the angles changed, that's why. Anyway, so I guess this can technically start counting as my library haul, but this is also a book that I just finished. So this is Problematic Summer Romance by Ali Hazelwood. And Ali Hazelwood, she, obviously unintentionally, but every time she releases a new book, it's always after I've finished exams. So this was like A-levels. Is it Deep End came out after like my year 13, year 12 mocks, I can't remember. Like it always syncs up, which is quite lovely, because these are silly, goofy romances that are really fun as long as you don't take them seriously. Like never go into a book like expecting it to be really perfect, makes sense, really serious, everything like that. Like it does talk about serious topics, absolutely, but it's just kind of like a fun read, basically. It's like a summer read. Anyway, this book is about... Why did I say it like that? It's kind of like a sequel to... what's the name of the book? Oh, this is like the sequel to Not in Love. And it's about Eli's younger sister, Maya, who has a crush on his best friend who is 15 years older. So this is like an age gap romance. And I will just preface with, this book is very dangerous in the wrong hands, I think. So if you have a friend who is trying to justify an age gap, do not let them read this book, because this book, like, it very much, it justifies the romance in this specific instance, and it has many conversations about consent, about power dynamics, about age. Like, the guy is really reluctant to get into the relationship even though he really likes Maya, like, because he is aware that he is very much older and he needs to have the self-control, you know. Because even if, so I do not agree with age gaps in real life. This book is like fine because it's fiction and also they have talked about it, but in real life it's like, even if the younger person is willing to, the older person is obviously still older, more mature, more experiences, they should still say no. But this book was very fun, set in Sicily because it's the setting of Rue and Eli's wedding. So you get a lot of scenes about them, which is really lovely and sweet. A lot of scenes with their dog. And yeah, now I really want to go to Sicily because the settings were gorgeous and the food sounded divine. Also, I have this book which I'm reading now, which is Peatlands. Because I love peat. Peat is so cool. I'm pretty sure even though it covers 5% of global like soil store, it sequesters about 20 or 25%, so very important. So, and we need to make sure that we conserve it. Yeah, I think the guy who read it before me forgot to take out his reservation slip because I've got Rob as like my bookmark. But so far I'm a few chapters in. It's really interesting. It balances the author's own experiences and her own love for peat with the science, which I quite like. And oh yeah, I forgot to say, problematic summer romance, I'd probably give it 7.5 out of 10. It was a fun read, but I don't know if I would reread it, so I'm not sure if it's like 4 or 5 stars worthy. I also have Magnolia Parks, which I have heard. So I've heard that the main character and the love interest are both really annoying and you kind of get frustrated at them, but it's a good romance. I'm not sure, but we'll see how that is. And I've seen it around quite a lot online as well. So hopefully it's popular for a good reason. I also have this book from the library, The Spirit of the Rainforest, and it sounds very much like Braiding Sweetgrass if it was set in the Amazon rainforest instead, which I'm very excited about. It talks about the indigenous tribes, their wisdom, their culture, and also specifically focusing on medicinal herbs and plants, and that's my jam. Like, I love that. That's what I did my EPQ on, about the role of plants in medicine. So I'm very much looking forward to this as well. And yes, and then finally from the library I have this. It doesn't have pinyin, so I'm not too sure how to pronounce it, but it's like the book of Chuang Zi. Oh wait, no, it's not even Mandarin, never mind. But that, and this is written by a Taoist philosopher. So this sounds very interesting. I do want to get more into philosophy. See, I don't know how much I'll be able to get through this summer, but shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land among stars. Type shit, guys. So yeah, I have this as well. And so the other 2 philosophy books I have the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which my dad recommended. He's read the Chinese version, so I'm not too sure about how good the translation will be, but he's Buddhist and I do want to try and get more into Buddhism. But so we shall see how much of this I can understand, how much of this I will get through, but it's on my TBR to read at some point. I think on the census I technically am Buddhist, like I put that down, but I don't know a lot about Buddhism. Like yesterday, me and my friend Evie, it was really funny, we had sunflower seeds and we were watching the ducks in the park, in the pond, and talking about Buddhism. She did A-level RS. She knows far more about Buddhism than I do, but I just felt so Chinese in that moment, like with the sunflower seeds as well. Anyway, I also really want to reread Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. This book I talk about non-stop, but it is one of my favourite books. It's the book that I would recommend to everybody because I think everyone can find something valuable in this and can improve in some way after reading this. So I think it's good to come back to books like this where you look at things with a new perspective or with new experiences in mind. Because I read this 2 years ago, or 1.5, so I've matured a lot since then. A levels have happened since then. Like the whole of year 13, oh my god, was probably the worst year of my life. But that means that I can approach this book with a new perspective, a new plethora of experiences. I've not used that word in ages, so looking forward to that. Also, I really want to read The Handmaid's Tale because of, obviously it's like a classic, very well written, but also of how relevant it is nowadays. Oh my god, I am so grateful I don't live in America, because this exact thing happened in the state of Georgia, I think, where there was someone called Adriana Smith. I'm not sure. I will like correct myself if I'm wrong, but she went to the hospital with really bad headaches and pains, and the hospital gave her a few pills and was like, okay, off you pop. Anyway, she then dies, is declared brain dead, but because she's pregnant a few months, maybe like 5 months, they keep her body alive for her unborn fetus. What the hell is the world? Like, I think her fetus did die recently though, but it's like that, like her family was saying like, don't keep her body alive, and obviously they still have to pay for the bills as well. So it's just honestly ridiculous, because the doctors were scared about getting sued for like an abortion if the baby died as well. Well, if the fetus died, it's not even a baby yet. So anyway, this book, very relevant, very well written, so I definitely want to get to that. Also, I have this book, Not the End of the World, which talks about climate change solutions. So I hope that this will be not only informative and like eye-opening, but also a bit more like hopeful, because I feel like at times it can feel very much like the world is over and everything is in shambles, everything is ashes, but obviously that mentality doesn't really get you anywhere. It doesn't help you make progress. So I definitely want to get around to this. I actually got this for free at an Oxford climate change summer school that I did this time last year, I think. Yeah, I think it was actually like this week last year or next week. So that's quite cool. But looking forward to this as well. And also, I think if I ever get into like a reading slump in the next 2 months, I can read The Heart of the Dog by Mikhail Bulgakov. It's a very short read, but I read Master and Margarita last year. So witty, so absurd, so whimsical, so memorable. So much happened as well. I don't even know if I could explain it. Like, Master and Margarita it had 2 timelines, one of Jesus and one of a magician who appears in Moscow and just plays pranks on everyone, I guess, the rich people. But then it's also a criticism of socialism, I think. I didn't read too far into the political stuff. I wasn't critical thinking very hard. I think it was because I read it during year 12 mocks, so I just went along with it. But anyway, this is, because I remember it was really strange. He tries to transplant the... What? Oh, he transplants the testicles and pituitary gland of a recently deceased man into a stray dog. Fascinating. Pituitary gland looks really dodgy as well, I'm pretty sure. Because I remember I wasn't in one of the biology lessons because I was ill, and my friend said that they were doing the pituitary gland and she thought of me because it was really dodgy. And she knew that I would have started laughing because I started giggling really, really hard. I was like shaking and trying not to make a sound when we watched a video on the Acton Myosin cross bridge. Finally, if I'm on like a complete roll and I somehow manage to finish that, which I probably won't, I have A Day of Fallen Night. I think it's about 800 pages as well. This is a prequel to Priory of the Orange Tree, built 1,000 years before, so it's not got the same cast of characters. But I've heard that this has more women and less annoying characters, because the Priory of the Orange Tree was 4 point of views as well, the way that it's written. And there was one called Nicole who is so annoying, and everyone agrees on this. Like, he's just a really annoying character. He would switch up on his day ones. He doesn't gaff about anybody apart from himself, his gold, and his only redeeming quality is that he's gay. But at that point, it's not even worth it because he's such an annoying character. Anyway, this has a gorgeous cover, and so if I ever get around to finally reading this, because I think I said that I was going to read this last year in my summer TBR video, as well as Priory of the Orange Tree, but I only ended up reading that instead. But anyway, shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you can land on a star. Is that how the quote goes? I can't remember. I used to be obsessed with Pinterest quotes in year 8. Like, I just had a folder. It was stuff like, stars can't shine without darkness, or after the rain there's a rainbow. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this yapping video. I should have had a cup of matcha or something, like with my Claro poster. My friend Evie actually baked some matcha white chocolate cookies and gave me 2 yesterday. Delicious. That's the only time that I will enjoy matcha, I think. I don't really like matcha, it tastes like grass to me. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed yapping. I hope you're doing really well wherever you are. The sun's shining, the birds are chirping, and love you lots. Have a great day.